She was just trying to send 30 hospital beds back to Moldova and ended up changing the law, building a national rehab center and delivering thousands of wheelchairs to kids who'd never been outside. Today, on Business Without Bullshit, meet Victoria Dunford, the woman who turned NHS leftovers into a healthcare revolution. Hello and welcome to Business Without Bullshit. I am Andy Uri, and today we are delighted to be joined by Victoria Dunford, a remarkable humanitarian, social entrepreneur, and the driving force behind Mad Aid, a UK-based charity transforming lives in Moldova. Since launching Mad Aid in 2012, Victoria has delivered thousands of wheelchairs and repurposed medical equipment from the NHS to Moldovan hospitals. She has also led the creation of the Phoenix Complex, a pioneering centre offering rehabilitation for children with special needs, elderly care, and soon a hydrotherapy facility. Victoria's work has earned her British Empire Medal and a Moldova Civic Merit Medal. She's also the author of the book Get Mad, The Life and Times of a Mad Woman. Excellent title. Victoria, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
We're going to start just with a little bit of fun, Victoria. We're just going to ask you a few simple questions about yourself, just to understand you a little bit better. We call it the Quickfire round. We're just cueing some music. And so what was your first job, Victoria?
When I was a student, my brother ran a shop, more like a corner shop equivalent in UK, but it was a corner shop / pub, and in the summer I used to work there.
Okay. In the UK, this was?
And I was in Moldova.
In Moldova. What do you call a corner shop in Moldova?
Oh, just a shop, because in the villages we only had 2-3 of those, and they, as I say, they play like a shop, like a pub, like everything. So
okay. An all-in-one shop, multidiscipline. What was your worst job?
Cropping tomatoes. When I came after graduating university in UK for 2 years work experience, I was cropping tomatoes at 30 degrees in a greenhouse, and doesn't matter how much you used to wash yourself after that, you still were green. So the towels was still green. So
do you like tomatoes now?
Yes, I don't mind them.
Wow. I worked on a farm, actually. Killing. Favorite subject at school?
Chemistry.
Chemistry. Okay, very good. What's your special skill, Victoria?
Making possible from impossible, probably. I'll say, especially when everyone around says it's impossible and you can't do it and don't try. I think that's what I am quite good at, and connecting people as well, I think.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
A doctor. I really, really wanted to be a doctor. There was no way possible. My mom was a single mom when I grew up, and to have 9-year student was quite difficult in those times in Moldova. So I decided to finish analytical chemistry. So I have a master's degree in chemistry, but now I'm working in hospitals fixing them anyway. So somehow fate threw me back into hospitals.
Yeah, you got there in the end. What did your parents want you to be?
A nurse, a teacher, something very safe, so I have a job forever.
Okay. And do you do karaoke?
No.
If you had to do karaoke, what song would you sing?
I Will Survive. Probably will be one of them.
Oh, nice. Gloria Gaynor.
Another one probably will be Some Hearts Are Diamonds, Some Hearts Are Stone.
Ooh, Some Hearts Are Diamonds, Some Hearts Are Stones. Wow. Office dogs, business or bullshit?
I'll say it's business. Dog is much more friendly sometimes, and is more therapeutic than any kind of counseling or therapy.
Yeah, here. What's your guilty pleasure?
Working very late and reading a lot.
Okay, let's just understand what's going on here. So what are you doing right now, Victoria?
What I don't do. I run a charity, and when you run a charity, you end up doing quite a lot of things and you're wearing many hats. So at the moment, my main job is to try to connect people, to raise the funds, to give opportunity to people to get involved in making a difference. We are collecting and recycling a lot of equipment that is not possible to use in the UK for different reasons, for health and safety issues, for expiry date. And we're recycling and repurposing this kind of equipment. And it's a triple win situation. We save the environment, We just an analysis on every single truck of aid we are shipping abroad is saving about 60,000 tons of CO2. Plus, this equipment makes a huge difference in other countries. We send mostly in Moldova. Since Ukrainian war, we send a lot in Ukraine too.
Tell us a little bit about Moldova. I mean, I could barely put it on a map. It's between Ukraine and Romania.
Correct. So Moldova is a very small country. It's a landlocked country. It's size of a Wales. The immigration has been a huge part of Moldova since 90s, since the dissolution of Soviet Union. And my analogy about Moldova is getting better now, but when the Soviet Union dissolved, we were given freedom, but no one knew how to fly. So the country gone down the hill quite badly because there's not leadership, people didn't know how to be free. It's getting better now, but the poverty is quite high still. 1 in 4 children live under the poverty line. This is classified as the poorest country in Europe.
Poorest country in Europe.
The disability is still not on a map. One of the area we are working into, we are making good progress. So in 10 years, we have managed to lobby legislation. We put the disability, social inclusion, inclusive education on the map of Moldova, the therapy. The hospitals, some of them have not been refurbished for 40, 50 years. So we physically have wards where the tiles are falling down.
Since the Russian ended, really.
Since they've been built. So the hospital we are working now is the main children's hospital in the entire country and has not seen any refurbishment since 86, since it was built. Our hospitals, when we start delivering aid here, we took the beds, the hospice and NHS was throwing away because they thought it's the end of a life, and they still good now there because there was rusty wire beds. You probably never saw them in your life.
Not to get into the heavy politics, but obviously with all that's going on with Russia and Ukraine, do you get drawn into that?
Yes, Moldova is in an extremely critical situation at the moment because obviously we are on a border with the war with Ukraine. We played a huge part in helping refugees because we was first gate where a refugee escaped from Ukraine. And we dealt as a country, as a community quite well with this, giving us name Moldova, small country, big heart. But the Russian influence is still very high. So the last election was very, very critical, and the Russian propaganda and the Russian influence is extremely, extremely deeply embedded in society, which is quite dangerous.
Russian is still the national language, isn't it? Or
no, it's Romanian is a national language.
It's Romanian you speak. Okay.
And the English is a second language. So Russian there are still schools in Russian, but not so many.
So you consider yourself more Romanian, if anything, do you?
Exactly. Yeah. But when I studied in school, my second language was Russian. So my third language was English. But now the second language is English language. So
why do this? What you ended up in the UK, did you? And then you set this charity up, or what's the story? How did we get here?
Yes, I came in UK as a student after graduating for work experience. I thought I promised my mom I'll go back in 2 years. I'll come, I'll make some money I'll learn everything is possible to learn. I'll make some money, go back and start working as a teacher in the chemistry or as a lab, in any kind of lab. And I met my husband. I went on Isle of Wight because that was my work experience, my work contract. And then I met my husband and here I am. So I stuck on Isle of Wight in a good way. In 2009, me and John were in Moldova when my mom was having a major surgery in one of regional hospitals. And John walked in and walked out and he was horrified. He said the hospitals in Moldova are looking worse than the British hospitals in the Second World War. And I looked at him and I said, you are spoiled British. The Belt Hospital looks better than one, like a local hospital. A year later, I came in UK. I sort of started looking for different jobs. I knew I'm here for a long time, married. I was trying to do some study, legalizing my diploma. And in the meantime, I started working in NHS on Isle of Wight. And I was just as shocked as John, but on another side, I saw how a modern hospital should look like.
Oh, because you'd never really seen it before.
No, I never saw how the hospital can look nice and the bedding to be changed 2 times a day.
People would say the opposite too. They'd say, the state of British hospitals or something, probably not great. I don't know.
Right, after working a few years there, you probably see the minuses everywhere, but it's still, when you have where to compare.
Yeah, it's so relative life, isn't it?
It's different. And coming from the night shift one day, I say to John, look, they are going to throw away 30 beds. They look like new. Can you imagine how wonderful it would be if these beds will end up in a hospital in Moldova, in cardiology ward? I knew exactly where I wanted those beds to end up, where my mom was still frequent patient. And John said, if anyone can do this, it's you. So I thought it would be easy. You load a truck full of beds, send it to Moldova, job done. Within 2 months, I knocked on my neighbors at times and asked them, how do I set up a charity? Because you needed a legal entity in order to send this kind of...
For them to be able to donate the beds to you.
Yeah, and to be able to do all the custom clearance and transportation, Moldova being outside the Europe. And with my neighbor used to work for HR for Child Aid, I think. So she used to have some experience, retired, some experience in non-profit. But when you have someone like 5 o'clock in the evening knocking on your door with a question, how do I start a charity? You sort of sit back. Anyway, and say, let me think about this. And she brought me one big book from NCVO. Within 2 months, I learned everything was to learn and I set up a charity.
Okay, no way. And you set it up as a limited company by guarantee, registered the charity?
Yes,
yeah,
both.
the traditional way, because you can do a CIO now, charitable incorporated company.
At the time, they only started doing the CIO.
Yeah,
and
CIO is 5 years old maybe or something, yeah.
So it was not an option at the time. So we had a trustee. I've done the charity. Trustee signed up for 1 truck, 2 trucks with 8 per year.
The trustee signed up for it?
Right. They thought it's going to be a small charity. So I'm going to work. I'm going to collect a few pieces of equipment and ship it to Moldova. How hard this can be. And a year later, when Isle of Wight prison came to me and said, we have 200 wheelchairs. Would you like to collect them? And I said, no, we don't have disabled children in Moldova. British have disabled children because you're eating too much crisps, too much fish and chips.
You don't have disabled children?
We don't have disabled children. Nevertheless, I decided to ask the Moldova government, do we need wheelchairs? And I was shocked when they told me in 2013 we need 1,800 people on a waiting list to waiting for their first wheelchair. So I never saw disabled people.
Oh, so you never saw wheelchairs and you thought it was because you eat healthy, but it's actually because
they are hidden away, because they were a burden to society. They were hidden away, no wheelchairs, no infrastructure for them.
Wow.
So I took 200 wheelchairs, going to Moldova, happy that I'm going to change lives to 200 people, enthusiastic. And then I hit another bump because we have managed, I didn't want to go to every home to deliver a wheelchair. I wanted to bring all these disabled children, adults, youth in one place so they can see each other, because they didn't know it's another disabled somewhere. And in the end of the event, everyone was so happy to receive a wheelchair. And I was most unhappy because I felt like everyone received a pair of shoes regardless of their size, their shape, what kind they need. So we decided to build a center for them. So 2 years later, we built the first disabled center for children with special needs in north of Moldova. And that's why I received a British Empire Medal for the center. And now the center is 10 years old and is making difference to hundreds and thousands of children every day.
And your comment about people eat healthy, I mean, why did you think that was true? Yes, you didn't see wheelchairs around, but maybe there's some truth to it, is it, you feel?
No, it's a lot of disabled children and it's a lot of disabled people in Moldova, but I think in every single East European countries, they were hidden away. Because in the UK, when I came to UK, you see the disabled people everywhere because they're on a bus, they're in a school, they're in a workspace, you see people around. So you thought Britain has more disabled people than Moldova does. And that was my perception at the time. And it was not just my perception. I used to work at White Salads. We had colleagues from Latvia, from Lithuania, and we all thought the same. We thought, oh, British people, they have a lot of disabled. In our countries, we don't. Wow. Now I realize that we probably have more, but you don't see them around as much.
Wow. I mean, there's always that attitude slightly about how we do this with old people as well, disabled people. We just sort of stick them in the cupboard. We've had some amazing disabled guests talk about how, they would it would be assumed that they wouldn't work. It would be assumed that they wouldn't have a normal life. And it's like, that's not the way it needs to be,
In 2010, we have managed to lobby the legislation. So in Moldova, the disabled people were allowed to start to work. So until 2010 was forbidden for them to actually try to have an employment. In 2013, we managed to lobby the legislation for inclusive education, so that children will go to school, disabled children.
How the hell have you got the legislation changed? I mean, what's the population of Moldova?
Right, 3.5 million, but about 1 million now outside, so more like 2.5 in Moldova left.
About 1 million have left.
Yes, the immigration.
And where do they go to? To Romania mostly, is it?
Not necessarily. We have a huge diaspora in Italy. We have quite a lot of people in Britain, America. So it's pretty much everywhere. Yeah. We have a lot in Russian as well. So yes.
It's one thing, getting some hospital beds to Moldova, which, clearly your husband indicates something about your character, a determinedness. But it's another thing to go and get the law changed. How did you manage that?
By knocking on door, by don't take no for answer, connecting, thinking what other NGOs are working in the sector, connecting all of us and keep bringing positive changes. For example, we used to say if disabled people will work, they will start paying taxes, they will contribute to society, they will not be a burden to society. And
you must be very persuasive.
I am. Over the years, I sort of got my name as Mad Woman pretty accurate. So,
yeah, what do you think drives you?
The changes. I've saw so much change in children's. Even the first time we started the charity and we took the first truck with aid. On Christmas, we sent 2 boys 2 wheelchairs. And when we delivered the first truck, me and John one day are making sure, I'm coming from Moldova, so I knew how bureaucracy and corruption was still embedded in the country. So I wanted to make the bridge very strong and make sure that every piece of aid gets to where it needs to be getting, is not sold, is not given friendly, is given...
Lost on the way.
Exactly. So we went to first truck and we gone to the hospital, and John was horrified. We'd gone to the care home. And in the end, John said, Victoria, we are 2 people. We both have full-time job. We're never going to be able to change this country. We've tried. We brought you 30 beds. Let's go home and carry on with our lives. And as sad as I was to admit he was right, I said, okay. And we went back to my mom's village to see her. And in that village was one of the wheelchairs we sent on Christmas. So we sent 2 wheelchairs on Christmas for 2 boys. And this boy went into a wheelchair. He was so happy. At 9 years old, he never had a wheelchair. He was born with disability.
God.
And he looked at John. John couldn't speak Romanian, but he thought John is British. He must have been, he's married. And he looked at John and said, thank you for my first wheelchair. Now I can see the trees outside, not just the leaves from my bedroom window.
Not just the leaves from my bedroom window.
And John couldn't understand, but he saw that eyes, like 9 years old boy's eyes, how happy they were. And he looked at me, joking, and he said, we have a choice I don't have. Even if we help 1 Alexandru or 2 Alexandru per year, will be 2 Alexandru more. And he said, while we have a choice, we don't stop. And these messages and how much difference you can see, even in one child's life you can make, then you cannot stop.
That's an amazing story, Victoria. It's there's so much we do every day, isn't there? To see the impact you're making. That was obviously supposed to happen, some would say, you know what I mean? But that keeps driving you on. Each one builds up. Wow. And then to the thorny question of, donations and raising money. How'd you go about it?
It's one thing I used to dislike most in running the projects and the charity, because you always feel like you're begging, and even if you don't beg for yourself. But over the years, I understood that you actually not asking for money, you're giving people opportunities to be part of something big. So once you explain to people and you show that I am the person who believes action speaks much louder than any words. So that's why I'm trying to invite people to come to Moldova, see our projects, see where your money goes, see what you've done, come and see. We were the charity who sent the first truck with aid from UK when war in Ukraine started, because we had all the infrastructure and logistic in place. Our first truck with aid for refugees, 8 days after war started, and was followed by another 34, because we had everything in place. And we had councillors, we had MPs, we had different donors coming to see the projects where we're distributing the aid. And this builds trust over the years. And then the people understand that they are part of something much bigger than just giving money.
Do you mainly raise money from people in the UK?
No, we raise money from Moldovans across the world.
Yeah, okay.
We raise money from the UK. We raise money from our British donors who believe in us, who know about Moldova, who want to take part. We raise money from Trust and Foundation, from companies who want to partnership with us. So every single method of fundraising, including my book, was done in order to raise more money so I can finish the swimming pool for the home.
Because the UK, I think most British people wouldn't be able to tell you what continent Moldova was on. Do you know what I mean? I don't even, is in the relationship and the knowledge of Moldova. The fascinating thing was, though, with the Ukrainian war, I thought, is that there's, I think there's a couple of hundred armed conflicts in the world. It's an enormous number, maybe it's 100, but there's a lot of fights going on in the world. Most of them we don't really know about. But when Ukraine happened, there was an enormous emotional reaction here, including for myself. And I know a couple of Ukrainian people vaguely, I don't really have a strong connection with it, but there was something about it.
Too close. It's too close to home.
It's still far, but it must just be pure distance. And Moldova's as close as Ukraine,
I was in Moldova when the conflict broke, and I woke up at 6:13 that morning. I'll never forget with echo of the bombs, because when they bombed all the airports, first morning they bombed all the airports in Ukraine, you could hear them very nicely in Moldova. So I woke up in those echoes of the bomb. So I was very close. But the conflict in Ukraine was very close to Europe. That's why it's a little bit much more touching to everyone.
And is Moldova's aim to join the EU, I guess?
Yes, the government is fighting very hard now to join the EU. We start again as building the experience. I built over 13 years. I am working quite close on social part, on health part with the government to help adhere to the European laws on these two departments. But yes, it's the process of integration started. So how long will take? We don't know, because we are very volatile on the geopolitical side. So
yeah, I mean, it's the corruption thing and stuff, isn't it? There's sort of so many things that have to come into line,
Yeah, the corruption is still there, but it's dying down quite significantly, and it's quite nice. But there are a lot of Russian influence. So we are going from 4 years to 4 years. So next government, you may have pro-Russian government, and then it's again step back. But hopefully it's not going to happen, and we're going to have pro-European government.
Well, we shouldn't be surprised that countries that sit between Russia and Europe are slightly torn between them, I mean, that's where they sit. Obviously, donations is tricky to raise, but, how can a charity or non-profit like you build a better relationship with businesses, do you think?
I think from business point of view, I think the many businesses, they they don't speak about the connection with the charities. And it's two big things the businesses are missing, in my view. And we are on a business podcast. So first of all, the businesses forget in many ways that the charity is a market too. So the charities, they need to buy services. They need an audit. They need an accountant. They need a HR services. So creating this kind of partnership, sometimes you might not just give funds, but you may give sell services or donate some services and make a positive impact in the world. Anywhere in where your heart is. And another thing between businesses and charities, the mutual partnership. So the charities will bring different, from my experience, for example, I do like to put the businesses who are sponsoring us and supporting us around one table. For example, we'll have someone from America, a guy who set up a business and is very successful, and someone from London and someone from Moldova. And when you put them around on the same table on a different networking events, they create a relation between them. And I always joke, more relation and more businesses you'll create, more money you can donate to us. But
it's a great way to meet people effectively. It's a nice framing, isn't it?
Exactly.
Rather than trying to go up to someone in a networking, or even, you're meeting someone around a table all trying to help someone.
And many businesses don't see this positive part. They just think, okay, I'll give £1,000. What I'll get? All I get anything or not?
Tax deduction. You get a tax deduction. You can donate as much of your profits as you want to charity. Unfortunately, only British charities now, but you are as well a British charity.
Yeah, British charity. Yeah, we have been British charities first.
Yeah. It's very sad. They've changed the rules. It used to be up until very recently. I think it's literally just changed. I'd have to check the date, but it used to be you could donate to any international charity. Now it's only British charities you can donate to. But there we go.
But it's a lot of beneficial collaboration between businesses and charities. And again, every business can choose 2 or 3 charities, or can choose one where it's their heart, but you have to partner them correctly, because if a partnership is not correct, then they will fall through.
I hear the same thing again and again about donating to charity. People think, yeah, we should donate to charity. I don't think that in this country there is any real sense of how much your profits. There's no, there's a concept of the tithe from religion and stuff, So I think, first of all, people don't have a sense of how much they should donate. But the real thing everyone always gets into discussing is, it's very split opinions on what you should donate to. A lot of people say, I don't want to donate to big charities. They waste so much money. People could argue, well, hang on, if you're running a big charity, just like a big business, there's a lot of overhead and management when you're running the Red Cross or something, Yours would actually fit in a bracket that I imagine is more attractive, that it's like people want to give money and see results. They want to know that they've given £1,000 and 900 of it has got where it needs to go. Do you know what I mean? Not 50 of it.
Me running a charity and setting up a charity, I somewhere in the middle, because for the first 6 years of the charity life, I used to work in NHS for 20 nights on a trot in order to make 2 months of wages and then go and build the Phoenix Center.
You'd work a double shift?
Just in order to run the charity, because my idea was every single penny has to go into the beneficiary and has to end up where it should end. Until 6 years later, the trustee got together and said, no, we need to have at least 1 employee. And they employed me. I used to get like really, really little money, but they said, we had a consultant who came and gave us 2 hours of free advice and say, if you die tomorrow, charity dies. If there's no sustainability, if it's not the infrastructure in place. Yes, there are big charities who maybe they lost the sidetrack with beneficiary. I don't know, but in the same time, we need those big charities to change the laws, because they are very good in lobbying and changing the law for people, including for people who are donating in many cases, like human rights, like different. So we need both of them. We need grassroots organization, but we need big charities too, in my view. And the people, how much you should donate, I think only what is in your heart. Because if you donate from your heart, what would you like? The money comes back. It's very hard to explain, but every good thing you do and every money donates in different ways will come back to you if you give it from your heart. It's the
karma theory, is it?
If you give from your heart.
Good makes good and bad makes bad.
Exactly. But if you donate because someone told you, then I think it's not the same.
That's a very interesting spiritual answer to that question, that you should, but what I see happen is people go, well, we should donate to charity. Yeah, that's right. And then, which one? And then you can get a bit stuck on that because there's sort of different views, isn't it? But I mean, it's not that complicated to solve, because you could say, well, right, let's donate whatever, £100,000. Let's pick 10 charities. We'll give 10 grand each.
But you are very privileged as a British donor. You are very privileged because you have charity commission where you can check the charities and you can see the impact. In Moldova, I'm trying to introduce this law because Moldova still doesn't have a charity commission. So we are under a sort of tax office, and they don't have this legislation so correctly put down like charity commission does. So if you are registered charity, any donors can go actually and check.
Very important to know that. Yeah, you can go to Companies House and check their set of accounts, but then you go to the Charities Commission, you can check that it's a charity, you can see their report, they have to write a report, who the trustees are.
The Charity Commission report is much more detailed than the Company House one. So the Charity Commission report, and as a British donor, you are very privileged to have this sort of control where your money goes.
Well, it's part of how the system works. Yeah, I mean, for all the faults we have in this country, I think someone famously said the British will put up with anything as long as they think it's fair. And I think this sort of transparency is very important. Sort of the ability to see stuff. And I mean, this, if you can't find a charity you're thinking of donating to on Companies House, they now don't have to be on Companies House. They now can register directly as what's called a CIO, Charitable Incorporated Organization, I think it is. With Charities Commission. So yeah, do check them out. You can see what they spend their money on, what they do. And that's a really interesting comment that in other countries you don't know. I think we're not really talking about here. A business can of course give their money directly to the charity and make sure it's doing what it's doing. I think there's some other elements of charities, how they have to raise money, stopping people on the street, knocking on your door. That's a slightly more uncomfortable bit of it. And you never, I mean, even if they're wearing a badge, you never really know what's going on. It's kind of, it actually, I'm going to get into trouble for saying this, but it's a bit of, the British aren't very good at confrontation in those circumstances, or telling people. So we end up being slightly emotionally blackmailed into like, well, just take some money or whatever.
I think the fundraising regulator and start to regulate those things much more now.
Because I think it creates the wrong, I think what you said is a beautiful way of putting it, give from your heart. And I think as a country, we're not very good at it. They're very good in Texas, apparently, because the American, in Texas, they have this attitude, if you become successful, you must give to charity. I think we have to work on it as part of our sort of mantra. We have to accept the basic premise that everything can't be solved by the government and tax and the government, much as maybe they should be theoretically. Some people feel that they should do it all. It's just not going to happen. And then certainly the government's not going to be helping in Moldova, but I think, and I just love how you framed it. Give from your heart.
I think if we took with Trustee, we worked hard. We sort of analyzed, and it's proven, especially even with businesses who started, and they came to me and said, "Oh, since we started becoming part and donating, the more contracts came up, and you can see how people are developing." But I think, if your heart is to help someone with cancer, you should help someone with cancer. If your heart is to help the dog society, you should help the dog society. That's what I'm saying. When you donate from your heart to the cause is close to you, yes, I would love everyone to donate to Medate, but I know it's not going to happen because disability and health part of what we do is not close to everyone's heart. But the people should donate where their heart is, because they will see the impact, they will see the difference, and the energy will come back to them.
And why do you think some people sort of hesitate to engage with charities? And what would you say to encourage them to get involved?
It's most of the reasons you mentioned earlier. So it's trust issues. So the people lost the trust, especially the big organization where they fail badly is on the conflict start. So like, for example, in Ukraine, when I said we manage it, because we're on the ground, we manage to send aid 8 days. They manage to send aid with 1-2 months because there's so many layers in order to, yes, they send much more aid than we did, but this, I think, where the trust is start getting lost. How do I encourage people? Just by showing the results. So I'm still think action speaks louder than any words, and I try to show the results, show where money goes, be transparent about this. If we need to get another person to employ, we will sort of ask our main donors, what do you think? Can we afford it? Can we afford it? But I think just being transparent and show the results.
And you have some donors that give all the time to you, that you sort of...
Yes, we have monthly donors who've been with us since the beginning, for 13 years. We have yearly donors, like the companies who are supporting us. And then we are trying to build the donor database still.
How's John think it's going?
He is living more in Moldova with me now than in UK, and he loves the impact.
You live in both places, do you?
Yeah, we travel a lot because we try to make sure still 13 years later that every single penny goes where it should go. Especially on the refurbishment projects, we are taking the UK standards. We still don't have a proper healthcare standards, how the hospital should look like. So we are working closely with Isle of Wight Hospital, where we have a very long relationship, and pinching the ideas, checking the standards from here. Obviously, they're public. And so we are dividing ourselves between 2 countries. But John is very proud, but he wouldn't say he likes to stay in the shadow. He doesn't like to go on the cameras. He just likes to observe, help, and be there when it's needed.
What are the doctors like in Moldova?
Very good. I'm not saying the British doctors are not good, but from day one when I was in UK, I say if we have conditions of British hospitals and Moldova doctors, we can have a perfect healthcare system.
Yeah, wow. Well, I'm sure they're great here too. Although, I mean,
considering with which equipment they're working with, in which conditions they're working, they're doing the wonders.
It's such a giant subject, isn't it? There must be a regulatory body for medicine.
Yeah, we do have. We have like people who are checking the social services if they provide it correctly. We have people who are checking the medical, but it's still very big gaps that they didn't think was needed.
It's like you say that it's sort of, you became a little lost as a country with leadership and identity. I mean, sounds like Britain. Anyway, but back when it was Russian in the 80s and things like that, was the healthcare okay or?
I remember my mom was a nurse, so I remember, and she used to say it was extremely strict, but was extremely good. And even now the doctors who done the studies, we have doctors who done the studies in Western countries like Italy, like Germany, like Britain, and they had studies from Russian as well. They said the Russian Moscow University was very good in teaching healthcare on like different complicated surgeries. So the healthcare was good, but the equipment was very poor, very
I think it
basic.
is serious medicine. I think that's the sort of thing we've ended up treating it like customer service. But I mean, I remember talking to my mum, who was a nurse, and she was saying how she was told she had to lose weight. And my mum was never massive, but as in like and I was like, you can't say that to someone. I said, well, they bloody did back then. She said, I was terrified of matron. And I said, well, why did you need to lose weight? And she said, because you got to be fit. It's a very physical job being a nurse. And back then it was run like an army kind of thing. And it's a bit like, you come see the doctor says, do you smoke? Yes, I do. Well, if you don't stop smoking, it's going to kill you. People get annoyed. They're like, well, I don't want that. Give me a drug for my lungs, and it's this sort of customer service, like you're in McDonald's, and they said you got to have a Big Mac and you wanted a quarter pounder. It's like, no, this is medicine. Like, and doctors used to be sort of gods and nurses would be tough on you, and actually, I think that's probably some of the frustration of where we've got to with the system here, that it's a sort of patient-driven care and everything. And actually, you should feel bloody lucky to get good quality medical care, and respect what the doctor says and do what you're told, if you want help.
It's correct. And it's been overused. The system has been overused. This is another... I worked in NHS for many years, right? About 9 years, and I saw it going down the hill quite fast. And when you came in, you think it's a 5-star hotel. And then you see the gaps here too, but those gaps in my eyes was nothing. But as you say, the doctors and the nurses were not as respected as they should have been, in my view.
I don't know it's going to change. They were because during coronavirus, everyone was like, the clapping thing is a controversial thing amongst the medical community, because it's sort of everyone came out and clapped and then went back to slagging them off a year later. It's like, oh, you respect us when you need us sort of thing. But we definitely need a shift change in... I don't know. It's sort of education, isn't it? It's
people forgot, I think it's worldwide, people forgot to be thankful. I think this is my analogy. I think people forgot to be thankful for, they always want something that they don't know what.
Yeah, I like the idea that you get a bill every time you leave, but it's paid. So it's like, by the way, you've been here for 2 weeks. It actually costs £150,000 credit as a UK citizen, but here's the bill.
I like that.
We got to be more aware, because we have no idea.
I like this for Moldova too, and probably I can implement that.
Yeah. Well, it's one of my many silly ideas. You can have that one for free. But do we value things we get for free? I don't know. I mean, do you find people in Moldova are grateful for the medical care more?
I think people are thankful for what they get, especially for people who have been abroad. So if people manage to wait for 3 hours ambulance in UK, where they want to, if ambulance in A&E and had to wait 2-3 hours in a line, they know in Moldova they can cut that line. So I think when they saw the different healthcare system somewhere else, I think they appreciate Moldova one better, but they don't have the infrastructure they need. And this is where we come in.
And what next do you feel for Mad Aid?
I launched this year, this ambitious goal, an ambitious project. I am aiming for 100,000 people who can donate €1, £1 each. This is what we're aiming for. And this will help us in 5-7 years to refurbish every single ward.
£1 each a month?
A month, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've heard it here. I mean, you go to the website, I assume, do you? And you can sign up for that now, can you?
Yeah, it's very easy to sign up. We are trying to send every month the full report. If we don't manage to do a report, we'll send one in 2 months for 2 months. But we try monthly to send the report to see where money goes. But I think that is sustainability for long term, because a pound doesn't change a life to anyone. So you're not going to miss a pound. But to connect 100,000 people to donate a pound will make huge difference for our project. And this is my next big ambitious goal. So if I connect 100,000 people to donate a pound, then I can concentrate to run the projects, to make a difference, to recycle, to save. Because we have hospitals coming across the country offering us equipment. And in many cases, you have to say no.
Because you can't afford to get the trucks to get it there.
To pay the transport, yes. Now we are shipping 200 beds from Holland out of 650, because this is only how much money we had for trucks. We emptied the Wales Nightingale Hospital, was done, never been used for COVID, and they give us 3 weeks to empty it. And I sent 5 trucks, and in the end we ended up needed 10 trucks.
Oh wow, this is one of the hospitals they built during COVID, was it? Which one?
Nightingale in Wales.
Nightingale in Wales, gosh,
and, half of them on to Moldova and half of them on to Ukraine.
That's amazing. I like that pledge. £1 a month, 100,000 people. And then you can sort of, you can get it to a better place. Well, amazing work trying to sort of redevelop these things. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Expect nothing from anyone. So when I started the charity, I expected the people, especially Moldovans, they will jump to the opportunity. They will think it's so, and no one understood what I'm doing, and everyone thought, what do you get out of it?
What's in it for me?
Yeah, what you're doing? Why are you doing this? And one of the trustees at the time, he told me, don't expect anything from anyone because everyone has their cultural experience, their geographical knowledge, they've been grown in different environments. So it's not about you, it's about them, but don't expect. And I think that was very helpful, especially in the world, in the industry I am.
Yeah, it's good advice. Although you are hoping for something from them occasionally, some donations, I guess. But yeah. And what's your top 3 tips for entrepreneurs or other founders? What would you say to someone?
Build your team from day one when you have time, because even if you think you don't have money, at that time you have time. And when you build the team, you will grow much further. You may grow faster if you go by yourself and you may think you make money. But over the time, when you will need people, you wouldn't have time to teach them. And this is a mistake I've done, and I wouldn't suggest to anyone to do. Regardless if you run a business or a charity or a project, build your team from day one.
Yeah, that's nice. You've got time at the beginning.
You have a time, you learn together, you grow together. And it's a ways you can find a way to build it from, even if you start with 1 or 2 people. Another good advice will be networking. Just learn from others who already done the thing. So don't repeat the same mistake. So do this via networking, via books, via podcast. Learn from other people's mistakes. So you'll avoid a lot of them.
Nice. Any others?
Think big. People are terrified to think big when they start. I started a charity and the people, trustee thought we're going to send 3 trucks with ADE, and I think 6-7 months later I came with this Phoenix Center complex and I put a big plans on the table, and we had £750 in a bank account at the time, and I came with £1 million project. I wanted to build this center. They were terrified and they were scared, but they didn't pour cold water over my vision, and they let me develop that vision, and I'm very grateful for them. But there are people who are worried to think big.
Yeah, it's hard to think big. I don't know why. Is there anything in bullshit in the industry?
Yeah, too much personal development, I think, lately is good in a measure.
Too much personal development. What does personal development mean to you?
I think everyone trying to teach you something, and people think if I haven't done 100 trainings, I'm not good in business. But actually a good entrepreneur and good business person is started from instinct, started from to solve a problem, is either solve his financial problem or he want to become free or solve a problem in society. And when you start going to thinking if you go to 100 trainings, you're going to become rich overnight. And it's not happening, because you learn one system and then you go to next training, different system. And this kind of big personal development brand is going on at the moment, I think, is damaging a lot of people who are good in business. I self-taught myself to run a charity, but I self-taught the needs. Like, for example, when I built the Phoenix, I never knew nothing about construction. Or when I started the charity, I knew nothing about fundraising. So I took fundraising courses and read fundraising books. When I started and opened the Phoenix, overnight I thought it's done, my job is done. And overnight I end up with 16 employees who needed wages, who needed training. And I had to learn how to become a manager, how to become a CEO. So I started reading and training in different
But you did a lot of personal development, therefore.
And I learned what I needed at time.
Oh, don't just sort of feel you've got to learn all this general stuff.
And
learn what you need to know when you need to know
I
it.
saw so many business people, even from Moldova, they going to the training thinking this training is going to solve all my problems, and they don't apply any of that training in their current business because it's not relevant. If you don't go to the training, it's relevant. And I think that is a little bit too much. I think it's a little bit of
and you
bullshit
forget it
in
all
this.
anyway. Yeah, that's a great answer. I mean, is there anything else you find bullshitty?
Yes, my biggest challenge in running a charity was to prove people it's possible to be done. So everyone keeps saying it's not possible. Why do you not stay in a job? Why do you start it? Why? So again, in a business, a lot of people tell you around. In my area, was 99% of people around me told me don't do this, and I done it anyway. But when you have a business and when you start a business and then people come to say, oh, don't, it's already someone there in industry, you're not going to be better. And this is discouraging. So I suggest, this is one big bullshit of businesses, but I suggest to business people, just follow your heart and do your best and don't listen to people around. Don't speak about your ideas with people who will discourage you.
Yeah, that's so true. It's a bit like get out of the room if you're the cleverest person in it. But I think there's a lot of truth in that. And that's it. Well, you've been an absolute delight, Victoria. Thank you for sharing your amazing story. So if people want to find out more, you go to Mad Aid, which is mad-aid, aid.org.uk. Please help these people, help people in Moldova and further afield. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
So that was this week's episode of Business Without Bullshit, and we'll be back next Wednesday. Until then, it's ciao.